Day 31. What fun. Not so much fun the last few days, but hey, I'm doing it every single day. I feel good about that. I feel good about making this trek. I posted something on Facebook the other day I described as soul thirsty. Yeah, I use hip modern lingo. And I admitted it was. I was just kind of like, please, if you consider yourself my friend, please check out what I'm pouring my soul into. And I got a really good response, and that makes me feel good because I was feeling a little needy to beg like that. I use the word begging in the post, like, hey, I'm begging you. If you care about me, then show me, yo. Check me out. I'm trying to do a thing here. And I was talking to a old friend from acting school today. Or I won't say old. We can't call each other old. I'll say long ago friend. And I was saying, it's not in an arrogant way, but I really do feel like I'm doing something here that I don't see a template really like this out there in this wacky interwebby world. And I feel like maybe people could get something out of it. I really truly do. So I'm going to keep on bringing it to you. And you and you and you and you and even you. Way in the back there. Yep. So today was pretty rugged for me. I feel a mishmash of pretty hard feelings. I wanted to write a poem that was very specific to this person I'm trying to honor today. And I did it justice. I think I did justice to what I'm feeling, but it's hard to get in that headspace of remembering somebody when so many other losses and challenges are going on simultaneously. And what's strange is I've been feeling this person's presence like a lot, and I didn't even really remember. Like, timelines are completely blurring on top of each other and gobbling each other up like Pac-Man, and I don't know what's what anymore, how much time has passed between this thing or that thing or this person or lover or undercover agent. I don't know. It's kind of getting a little woven together in this kind of overlappy way where I sort of can't decipher, was that a decade ago? Was that last week? I'm pretty good at remembering everything. Like, I was talking to Momo about acting school the other day, and she's like, Teal, it's funny that you think I remember things exactly like you do. Like, that I remember what people were wearing and what they ate. And when we had those adventures together, I was not even a fully formed human yet. I was like 17, and I had to remind myself, like, yeah, I guess not everybody keeps that, like, contabulation constantly of what's happening. But just been diving through some deep memories, and I'd been getting pretty powerful emotional visitations from a specific friend. And after a lot of turmoil last night, like, I'm talking about turmoil, it'll make you soil yourself. Bad. I kind of laid down, couldn't sleep, was feeling like a lot of heart-pounding fear and uncertainty, and I remembered that today, it was already midnight, so that day, this day that we're in now, was the day this person chose to exit the planet. And I know I've talked before about, like, celebrating someone's birthday as opposed to the day that they went away for whatever reason. Not that they really do go away. I don't believe that. In fact, I know they don't. Many of them don't. Most of them don't, in one way or many ways. But it's different, sort of. And again, I'm getting too old to try to prove it to anybody, but this particular friend, my friend Eddie, who chose to exit the earth plane, I had been having some really strong psychic vibrations with him before he made that choice. And of course, you go through all of that gut-rocking, relentless guilt and wonder if I had listened more to my instinct, to my imploring witchy side, sort of banging at the door of my psyche. But it's hard to hold on to those threads. It's very slippery. It's very tricky to do that. But the last time we had spoken was not long before he made this terrible choice. And I was at Walmart, of all terrible places. Of all the awful fluorescent lighting you could be surrounded by, to speak to someone so tapped in and completely revered and loved and one of a kind and completely irreplaceable. And Eddie called me while I was looking at like those stupid shirts, you know, that are in the men's section that are like usually like cats in outer space drinking milk out of planet bowls or whatever. Cats dressed up as like G-thugs wearing bandanas. I was looking at all those stupid shirts. And I remember telling Eddie that, and he laughed about it. Like, I love those shirts. I was like, I knew you would. But he called me out of the blue while I was perusing junk that I didn't need and didn't even appreciate how profound the moment was or how much I needed to hold on to it and grasp the sides of it. And he was just calling to tell me how special I am. He was just calling to tell me that I matter, you know? He was just calling to tell me that I am on the planet for a reason and that I do things that are seen and felt by others. And, yeah, that's it. I mean, who does that anymore, right? Pretty much no one. Pretty much no one, like, honestly. And it was just because Annie had started this school that was kind of like Hogwarts for chosen ones. It was like this very specific artistic, mind-expanding, self-exploring school where he was just very selective, and he was chosen, of course, naturally. I mean, that didn't surprise me one little teeny tiny bit. But he had just kind of told me about the ins and outs of the school, and I was like, wow, you're in a movie. Like, you are in a movie. And I remember just thanking him so much. I was like, thank you for pulling me out of the shitty lighting and the zombie-faced people. And, you know, this was many years ago, but there was still, it didn't require masks for people to be really in a zombie zone. So I just was thanking him profusely for being there, for being who he was, and for calling me out because I was in a space of my own kind of zombie chugga 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 on these gears that didn't even make sense to me anymore. Waitressing and feeling beaten down, and I didn't do enough, and I fucking failed, and I let everybody down. And he was like, snap, 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 snap. No. You are of the cosmos. You are a soothsayer of epic proportions, and you're supposed to be here doing exactly what you're doing. Stop it. And he really called me out on my shit when I was trying to be like mopey human skin sack, just like me pee. He wouldn't let me get away with that shit. One of the few people who just would not stand for that And I knew that he like felt me kind of droning through Walmart and felt a tether, like a Donnie Darko fucking tube from my heart to his, and called me in that moment. So when I feel those tubes, I do something about it, you know? So it's been very hard for me to write this poem. Just in the last 5-6 days, I've kind of mentioned I've found out my dad has to have crazy surgery. My best friend's mom is having a surgery. Lost a friendship due to really fucked up nonsense. And lost a friend for the same reason I lost Eddie. And that's like 5 days. So I've been struggling to even like want to wake up really, or do anything, or move my limbs, or eat. But you have to when you get smacked around by that kind of perspective. You have to kind of push through that fog and do it anyway. I had this kind of pinned up behind me, but you couldn't see it back there at all. This wall back here is kind of like my dark art. And I don't mean dark in a like negative, I'm being negative to myself way. But like there's a picture of me over here and it says, "Resting in the stillness, blessed be the dark." And I talked with Eddie about this a lot, just kind of like how you can't have the light without the dark. You can't have the yin without the yang. You can't have balance if you don't tap into all deep, winding pathways of yourself. And he helped me do that. But I have a bit of his art here, and hopefully you can see it. It's like hard to get the right lighting with these phone cameras, but it's a sketch of his own face, a little self-portrait, and some kind of lines he was doing back here, and he sort of was like messing with the face back here, and it kind of comes through here, which I love the way it shines through, and sort of pieces of him. And I remember at his memorial that they were giving away art of his, and I remember hesitating, like I don't want to take too much, or I don't want to be pushy if other people want it. Now I kind of regret it. Like, I don't know, there was a few pieces I felt like were kind of speaking to me or made for me, and I didn't want to be selfish, but it's okay. I can still see them in my mind. And he also did these like descending black streaks back here. And there was a couple of pieces of his that I just simply couldn't find, and that also kind of frustrated me, but it's okay. It'll be a treasure hunt for another time. And now that I'm thinking of it, there's these little statues I really want to show you, and I hate editing, and I wish I could just go run and get them. Not have to edit this together, but I'll show you another time. There's always a good time to bring up Eddie, because he's just one of those people who's forever with me. So speaking of which, my friend Lindy actually made this for a few of us in the friendship group, and be freaked out if you want. It's not really consequential to me because I think it's beautiful, but it's a little bit of Eddie. It's a little bit of his ashes in this acrylic, and it kind of reminds me of an ocean, like a seashell. And I wear it a lot when I feel like I'm just degrading my own power, turning the switch down on my own power, denying who I am, allowing others to suffocate or deny who I am. Gotta pull that out. So I keep it in this really special little box, and I like to keep things that are super special in that way, sort of guarded or grounded or surrounded by various talismans. And so I have guarding Eddie's little box, my special palmistry necklace, which you'll hear why that's important in a moment. This special little bead I believe I found on the floor at the schoolhouse. I can't remember. I know it has a memory tied to it, but, you know, I really need to write more things down. And this turtle. I remember talking to Eddie once about how, like, mystical turtles were, and they just held all this wisdom and, like, carried it for us, and how other people couldn't even see, like, the burden they carried on their backs of all of this mighty wisdom that only they were entrusted to carry. I thought that was great. So yeah, I keep him in this special box and on my bedside, right next to where I lay my head to sleep. So there's a million really good stories I could say and tell and share about him. Truly, there's so many. This particular piece up here too, he always told me I had butterfly energy, and this is a piece from another artist, but it says headed for the butterfly trap, and I always had to kind of look at that to be like, I can't get trapped. I can't let my butterfly energy get trapped. Yeah, so there's so many good stories I could go into about him, but I know I've been getting them running a little long these days. Forgive me. I could paint the walls with my soul for y'all all day, all the time. So I have a hard time keeping it short. Oh, and this is his shirt. Of course I have to mention this. They were giving away some of his clothes too, and that was the one thing that I was like, I'm getting that perfectly soft orangey red shirt. Like, that's mine. And I kind of like went right for it. And there were some really good hats that other people got, but it was kind of like everything that seemed like it was meant to go. It went to who it seemed like it was meant to go to, you know? Like, as soon as the people put those things on, I was like, oh, I'm not jealous anymore. That's perfect for them. And this one is perfect for me. It's like, you know, I hate modern fabrics. I hate all the, like, synthetic made from frickin' petroleum. It's so, like, bleh. And you know those fabrics that, like, he had this back when fabric was still fabric. And it's so loved and worn, and you can just feel him, like in sunny days wearing it. Like, you just know, you just feel it. It's there. There's still, like, a couple stains. I mean, I've never washed it, you know. It's like, there's some things I just don't fucking care. I don't care who cares. As far as cleanliness or whatever, however you want to look at that. But when I got it, you could still smell him on it, and so I never washed it. Okay, so I wrote this one for Eddie, and I know he's with me, and he stood for my magic, rooted for my magic, stood next to my magic, and lifted my magic up more than anyone I have ever met. He spoke right to it and was so fiercely in defense of it. He would stand as a soldier against anyone who wanted to make me feel more human and less fairy, or tone down my brightness. He just wouldn't stand for that shit. And I really miss having a friend like that. So, yeah, I'll just give it to you. I feel really good about pouring this out today. It's called Eyes That Were Actually a Prize. I was pulled to the established party house one day, I believe in search of a costume piece, or maybe just in search of release. Just when I thought no one was home, I heard Eddie's silky voice calling me melodically from back in a long closet pretending to be a bedroom. I floated back there, already entranced by the air he seemed to curate himself. A wealth of fluttering flumes of secret sun messages strewn across the floorboards. It didn't even feel like we were indoors. I was sure, in fact, we'd suddenly entered another realm. He was at the helm, it seemed, steering us half toward a revelation, half toward a dream. There were never the same confines with him. We ripped open those seams. A team of two in a new land, we planted a flag on that day. It was cinema. It was holy. It was a gentle swaying parade. I'd say I spend 90% of my waking hours afraid. And with him, I never was. Our every interaction had a certain electric dynamic buzz. Back rubs, lazy sunbeam yoga, person philosophy, psychic practice, cartoon nostalgia, confined space waltzing, divine pole vaulting, and soul rummaging were just a few of our activities on that day. He was living in a small storage area that was longer than it was wide. Few items on the tiny shelves, as was his way. Never a wonder what to say. If there was silence, we were still communicating, like a sure and mystical science. I never before or since felt such a specific magical alliance. He lit otherworldly scented incense and put on classical records. We were interdimensional trekkers, adventurers of the layers others pretended weren't there. We changed the molecular presence of the very air around us. We shared a sacred trust. I felt a rush of being alive even in my eyelashes. No confusion, no competition, no power struggle, no clashes. He told me quite simply he knew that we had been given stardust from the very same barrel. We knew all too well that having extra stardust could make the harshness of humans all the more unbearable. But we felt no heaviness or burden that day. In fact, there were moments I thought perhaps we'd begun to levitate. I felt all the parts I hid from others beaming and reverberating on high. I just was with him. For once, I really didn't have to try to be seen, to try to explain my random dances and my too big dreams. He often pointed out when I was hiding my magic. And the tragic part, he was always right. I'd get so embarrassed and just tuck it out of sight, but he'd hold the light right up to it until I wore it proudly again. I often take myself back to that rare day of actual zen. I'd been in that little room before he tended to it lovingly as he tended to all he held dear. It had been a dingy little corner of clutter, and he came in and made it a temple, calm, welcoming, and clear. We sprawled out on a big blanket, eyes closed, absorbing the music, and I swear, angels appeared. It was the rarest of days where nothing overlapped or interfered with our voyage. No phone buzzes, no evading depth, or errands, or need to even use language. The knots and barbs of secret jealousies or things unsaid by hiding one's cards never existed between us. Our collected moments always felt to me to be headed for a zenith. We were absolutely fiendish to tear down the walls of enforced reality. We both believed the alleged structures that others nodded about was a total fallacy. I thought we each held half of a secret palace key where we could be the full human fairy hybrids we were destined to be. At one point, he turned to me and said, "I'll give you certain invisible pieces. Keep all these pieces of me." I naturally didn't understand it then, though I tend to think such requests are meant to explain themselves later. But in that treasured request, I could see in his eyes I was more than human, more than frail and scared, more than a tired waiter. The smoke curled around the edges of the narrow room, which seemed to stretch as our powers grew greater. We hadn't spoken in 20 minutes or more, and suddenly we shared a kiss, so healing and so pure. I've never had a kiss like that, or anything close, I'm sure. We walked right through all the mazes of each other's beings and opened every door. It wasn't like other kisses with questions and energetic hits and misses. It needed no follow-up, no awkward interview. It was simply our souls scooting in to get a better view. There wasn't a single thing that shared between us that wasn't real and true. His eye contact and stacked high heart offerings made me feel renewed. In fact, it was so easy to become glued to his one-of-a-kind eyes, we actually offered up an eye-gazing session with him, one Valentine's, as a contest prize. The tasks were challenging, and many were willing to meet them for a chance at that dreamy deep dive. It was a feeling a step above just alive. It was better because my sorceress side could thrive, and the enchantment only seemed to multiply when he was along for the ride. We derived new meanings from music notes as they floated us over waters of comfort and contemplation. We invited along our imaginations and went on vacation from the ordinary. The minutes carried us to unknown heights. I was warm in the cinnamon-colored light. I felt whole and seen and bright. We delighted in laughing when nothing was said. I read his palm and asked the day to please be prolonged as possible. We created Beethoven stretches, our hair wild and tousled. Now I think back to studying his palm lines. Could it explain what shift happened in his mind? Was it soulful, faded, intrinsic, or sonic? Should I have crafted him an elixir, quick fixer, a magic tonic? The conic, his hand shape, identifying the artist. If I'd expressed my fear for him, would he have chosen to regard it? Could I have pulled him from that mental pit with my physic hand, that of the idealistic, hopeful spirit? If I had seen the warning then in his hand, in his descending branches lines, could I have cleared it all away? In that fading light of day, I spotted his deep line of the sun. Could I have undone his inner tangles if I dangled a divining pendulum over his overdeveloped mount of Luna? An unfortunate indication of excessive sensitivity. Inopportune reality of a human world erring on the side of cruelty. Or was it his mount of Jupiter with feelers always out for what is looming in the future, or a fully developed line of Saturn that led to such patterns divining a foregone conclusion of utter woe? Could I blame the lines hidden within his quadrangle to find some mangled part of his heart he didn't let me in on? To pinpoint a motivation for such utter devastation? But he didn't speak to his pain or frustrations, nor give them away in his palmistry that day. He simply transported me away from all that weighed on me, and mended parts that had been frayed, which I assumed could not be saved. He paved winding portions of my mystical way, and lined the rest with twinkle lights, garlands that play in the wind when she whispers his name to me. Snapdragons, cattails, lavender, and peonies. I've held all your pieces, Eddie. I've held them close and tenderly. The world has tried and failed to render me powerless and drained of magic. I've battled with all forms of armor and used just about every tactic to keep my glimmer aglow. I treasured every single moment of mundanity rejection, hidden mystical particle detection, and kindred stardust reflection. I just want you to know. Also, I miss you so. It's a lot. It's a lot to take on when it happens. It's a lot to take on when you take a nap and they're there, right there. It's a lot to take on years later. It's a lot to still have all the same questions that I had back then, and none of them answered. And I know a lot of people are feeling this indescribable pull to leave, I guess. So I'm going to do my best to try to find more opportunities to do Beethoven stretches and waltzing in tiny rooms and art. Share your heart. Yeah, just anything you can shine light on. That matters, you know? It does. It has to. It's got to. There's just not words for it, really. It's like, there's no one like him. I never met a person who I knew immediately saw me like that. And didn't question me, and didn't combat my mysticism with some sort of deeply ingrained logic, but just allowed me to be everything that I was and more. And every single time I saw him, no matter who he was with, if they were people I had never met before or old dear friends, he would talk about my magic abilities and say, "This is Teal. And she sees things that no one else sees." And I've spent my whole life trying to convince people that I'm not crazy because of that, because of what I see, what I feel. And he didn't take an ounce of convincing, because he just saw it straight away, right out the gate. "Hello, nice to meet you." And yeah, you are full of out there in the cosmos sprinkles and sparkles that you don't need to fucking defend to anyone. And I just miss having that support, because I always feel like it's something I have to put a veil of normalcy over, or, you know, just describe as like, oh, in theory, or like, yeah, I'm just talking about the essence of spirit, when it's like, no, I'm talking about actually talking to spirits and actual divination and actual crazy shit that has happened to me. And I never had to like raise my voice in that way with him to make it some production so that he would perceive it as real, because he did so immediately. it's so rare. So I've pretty much spent my time since hoping for, looking for, and manifesting more energy like that. To just be allowed to be exactly what I am somehow. Yeah, just really, really miss it. I guess I could go on all night about how I just have never seen it again. That kind of warm, glowing. He had like magical crystals for eyes that just let you in and dared you to be the most high volume version of yourself without necessarily being loud, but just not converting it to another more palatable substance for people, and not shielding anyone from a thing so beautiful as magic. Why would you ever shield that? So, turn it up. Turn that volume up on yourself. Stop turning it down just because other people are. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous. They force us into it. And it's not necessary. You can be magical. I give you permission. So, hold somebody close you love tonight, or call them and tell them so, or text them and tell them so. For God's sakes, don't just use an emoji or a symbol. Take a minute. Weave a word or two for someone who you think maybe is letting their magic slip through their fingers a little. You can help them out. You can restore it. Sprinkle it right back. Love you, Eddie.